Polite little family you've got." That's what he said, right after he hit me. Right after my mother saw the bruise and looked away. Right after my father walked into the kitchen like nothing had happened. No one asked if I was okay. No one pulled me aside or whispered, "Leave with us." They left groceries on the counter and shut the door behind them, softly, like silence was more sacred than the truth. That was the moment I stopped being theirs. And it was also the first night I lit a candle. Not for prayer, for proof. Because sometimes the only way to break a cycle is to let the silence speak, louder than the scream. If you've ever had to stay quiet just to keep the peace, only to realize it cost you everything, comment number 1. And if you've never had to, comment number 0. Because tonight, I'm not asking to be heard. I'm asking to be believed. He hit me, right in front of my parents. They didn't flinch, and that was the moment I stopped being theirs. The skin beneath my left eye throbbed, not just with pain, but with a heat that felt personal. It pulsed with humiliation. I didn't move. I hadn't moved for 22 minutes to be exact. The towel I'd pressed there had gone from cold to lukewarm, now resting on my lap like a surrendered flag. I could still taste blood at the corner of my mouth, metallic and persistent, the way shame lingers, even when you've swallowed it whole. The living room was dim, except for the blue flicker of the TV screen. Some laugh track sitcom rerun echoing fake joy into a room where joy had long since packed its things and slipped out the back door. The door lock clicked. 3 short turns of brass. Keys jingled like wind chimes on a porch I'd never had. I didn't even look up. They didn't knock. They never did. My parents stepped into the apartment like they still paid the mortgage, like their presence was a gift I should be grateful for. The smell hit me first. That crisp scent of laundry detergent they'd used for as long as I could remember, lavender and lemon, wrapped in that aching familiarity that once meant home. Now it just smelled like obligation. My mother entered first, 1 grocery bag in each hand. Her sweater matched her lipstick. My father followed, back straight, eyes already scanning like a man used to reading disappointment on walls. I turned my head, just enough. Her eyes landed on the bruise instantly. Her steps faltered, just slightly. One of the oranges in her bag rolled and knocked against a bottle of soap. My father's expression didn't shift, not even a flicker, but his eyes did narrow, calculating, not worried, not even confused, just measuring. He hit me. You can still see the shape of his hand if you look close. The skin hadn't broken, but the purple bloom said enough. And they saw it. Then came the voice. "Polite little family you've got," Chase said, sauntering in shirtless from the hallway. Beer in hand, half drunk. His stomach hung lazily over sweatpants. His smile was pure rot beneath polished teeth. He didn't even try to pretend. My father gave him a stiff, courteous nod, like they were business acquaintances. My mother lowered her eyes and walked past me. The grocery bags landed gently on the kitchen counter, aligned like she was staging a magazine shoot. No one said a damn thing. The door closed behind them with a whisper. No slam, no pause. Just a quiet click, more like an exhale than goodbye. I sat there, still. The laugh track on the TV chuckled again, a full 5 seconds too late to be funny. The weight in the room was thick, like the air just before a tornado, charged but unmoving. Chase dropped into the recliner with a grunt, cracking his neck like he'd just finished a workout. I didn't speak. I didn't look at him. Instead, I reached forward, took the towel, and placed it in the half-melted iced tea glass on the coffee table. The last cube dissolved instantly, vanishing with a sigh. Then I stood. Not quickly, not defiantly. Just with intent. I passed the photo on the wall. Our wedding day, me in lace, him in navy. The frame was crooked, slightly tilted, like even the wall had given up pretending this was still straight. I walked into the bathroom. The mirror was honest. I looked tired. I looked older. I looked like someone who had swallowed every for better or worse and found only worse. My mother used to say, marriage means endurance. She never said enduring would mean doing it alone. I touched the bruise, not to soothe, but to memorize. Then I reached for my phone. The screen lit up. I flipped to the camera. I raised it slowly, like it weighed more than it should. Click. The shutter sound snapped like a matchstick in silence. I stared at the image. The swelling. The busted lip. The eyes that didn't blink anymore. I saved the photo, then typed, "First entry. I won't delete this. Not this time." Back in the living room, Chase was already half asleep. The recliner hissed under his weight. A beer commercial was playing now. Two friends laughing in a bar like life was simple. I stood at the edge of the living room and stared out the window. The sun was setting behind the city, casting orange streaks across glass and steel. I didn't feel anything, not anger, not fear, just air, cold and quiet. My phone vibrated in my hand. A message lit up the screen. "Tessa, if you're done being polite, I've got something for you." I didn't smile, but I did stop apologizing to the silence. She didn't knock. She didn't smile. She just handed me a black folder and said, "Read fast." "We don't have time." The room smelled like warm dust and lemon cleaner, the kind of scent that usually meant comfort, but tonight felt sterile, surgical. Outside, the wind dragged dry leaves across the balcony, like warnings no one would listen to. Inside, the curtain shifted slightly with every gust. A low, humming quiet blanketed the apartment, broken only by the faint tick of the microwave clock. Tessa stepped in like she'd done it 100 times, but with none of the softness she used to bring. No takeout bags, no inside jokes, just the duffel in one hand and a folder in the other. Her face was bare. Her eyes were sharp, focused. She didn't sit, didn't wait for permission. I hadn't seen her in weeks. The last time, we were in a bakery off Peachtree. I had stared at a tray of lemon bars like they held answers. I'd said only 3 words. "It's getting worse." She didn't ask questions. She just leaned forward and whispered, "Tell me when you're ready." Not before. Tonight, I was ready. She dropped the duffel onto the kitchen counter, unzipped it without fanfare, slid the folder toward me, and then placed a small silver flip phone beside it. No apps, no camera, just numbers. A relic, perfectly untraceable. I didn't open the folder right away. My hands were steady, but my chest felt tight. Not from fear, from something else. The terrifying pressure of hope. Inside were 6 documents. The first, a notarized lease for a 1-bedroom apartment 12 miles south, in Tessa's name, but signed by me. Already paid in full for 2 months. The second, a power of attorney I didn't remember signing but instantly recognized. My initials in careful print, probably from a night when I still believed in keeping the peace. The third, a printed summary of Chase's gambling transactions from the past year. The poker app. The linked withdrawals from our shared account. Each one time-stamped. The fourth, a screenshot of his burner email, the one he used for those shady fantasy leagues. The fifth, my own emergency room intake form, the one where I said I slipped. The sixth, a blank page, except for a single line handwritten in Tessa's sharp script. Start over. Quietly. "You don't need to cry," Tessa said. "You need to move." I nodded. Once. I thought I needed a reason. I whispered. Turns out I only needed a way. We didn't talk after that. I moved through the apartment like I was tracing the blueprint of someone else's life. Pull the duffel open, slide in a pair of jeans, a toothbrush, a worn paperback I hadn't finished. I didn't look at the walls. I didn't look at the couch where he always sat. I didn't even look at the fridge photos, my smile laminated in magnets and denial. The wind howled again, this time louder, urgent, as if the night itself knew it was now or never. Tessa watched me quietly. In the corner of the room, Chase's beer bottle fizzed gently, foam rising to the neck, threatening to spill. It didn't. It just built pressure, quietly. I slipped my shoes into the bag without tying them. Didn't matter. I wasn't walking far, just away. And before we left, I walked to the table, took the folder, slid it into a matte black envelope I'd kept in the drawer for years, back when I thought adulting meant budgeting. I placed it right next to his beer. The fizzing didn't stop. It sounded like a countdown. He walked out of the bedroom, shirt twisted from sleep, scratching his stomach. He saw the envelope immediately. What's that? I looked at him. Really looked. It's neat poison, I said, voice calm, but it might kill something else. Have you ever left something behind? Not because you were done, but because they already were? That moment when the ones who should have stood up for you walked away instead. If you've ever been quietly erased by people you trusted, comment number 7 below. Now let's see what happens when silence becomes survival. He squinted, frowned, reached for it lazily. Before he could peel back the flap, the bedroom door behind him clicked shut. We were gone. In the hallway, I heard the buzz of the phone I left behind. Just before the elevator doors closed, I saw the screen light up from across the living room floor. Phone is active, tracker disabled. The signal was severed, and so was I. He grabbed my wrist. I didn't flinch. I just tilted my phone and said, "Smile." There was no rage in my voice, no panic, just steel. That calm kind of knowing that only shows up after you've stopped hoping for better. The hallway smelled like burnt dust and mildew, old heat vents, and even older tension. The overhead light above flickered, casting long, broken shadows on the walls. The kind of lighting that made everything feel like it was happening in slow motion, like an old film reel with frayed edges. I was barefoot. The tile was cold beneath me, grounding. I could feel each line in the grout, the slightly uneven surface reminding me I was still here, still standing. No armor, no shield, just truth. Earlier that year, I'd tried to record Chase once before. I had hidden my phone under a kitchen towel, trembling with both fear and guilt. When he slammed the cupboard and called me ungrateful, I let the phone run for 30 seconds, then deleted it 2 minutes later. Back then, I was afraid that capturing proof would mean I had to act on it. Tonight, I didn't hesitate. I'd opened the bedroom door the moment I heard his feet slam against the hallway floor. He hadn't even gotten the chance to knock. The surprise on his face was immediate, electric. He wasn't used to being intercepted. He certainly wasn't used to being met with stillness. "Nora, what the hell is going on?" His voice was coarse, already on edge. Then came the hand. He grabbed my wrist like it was instinct. Not violently, not enough to bruise, but enough to try and anchor me, to remind me who'd had the last word in every fight until now. But this time, I didn't pull away. I lifted my phone and turned the camera toward him. The red recording dot blinked back at both of us. "Smile," I said. He froze. The silence stretched between us like elastic. Then he laughed, short, derisive. "You serious with this?" His eyes flicked toward the phone, then back to me. "What are you doing? Filming me now?" "Documenting," I corrected, voice low. Finally! Before he could react, another presence filled the doorway behind me. Tessa. She stepped forward slowly, deliberately. Her expression didn't change. She held up her own phone, already recording. "This is live," she said, "and it's already backed up. Keep talking." Chase turned his head sharply. His confidence flickered. "This is insane," he snapped. "You're insane, both of you. This is entrapment." "No," I said calmly. "This is what happens when someone finally listens to a woman before she's in a body bag." He scoffed again, pacing backward, shaking his head. "You think a bunch of screenshots and sob stories are gonna— what? Take me down? Nobody's gonna care." "You should have cared," I said. "You had your chance." I stepped forward and dropped the black envelope onto the hallway table with a soft thump. His eyes tracked it like it might bite. He didn't move. I unfolded the flap and pulled out the contents one by one. Printed emails, bank statements, my medical records, a copy of the emergency protective order. He watched them land like bombshells on the table. One after another, after another. "What is this?" he said, voice starting to crack. "Evidence," I said. His eyes scanned the pages, face tightening as the puzzle came together. The dates matched. The transactions matched. Even the screenshots of text messages he never imagined I would save. You went through my stuff," he stammered. "This is illegal. You hacked my account." I nodded. Number I accessed my account. The one you siphoned money from. The one you pretended was joint but drained when I was asleep. "You can't prove Tessa cut him off. "Everything's time-stamped. You want to play legal? We're already 2 steps ahead." He turned to me again, desperate now. "This is how you want to end things?" "I already ended them," I said. "You just haven't caught up yet." He stepped closer, but I didn't step back. "You think anyone's gonna believe you? You think one video's enough?" "There are 8, I said. 2 from the hallway, 3 from my phone, 1 voicemail, 2 eyewitness accounts, and a nurse's sworn statement." He blinked, and I watched his knees nearly give. The hallway light flickered again above us, and I could see it now. The sheen of sweat on his temple, the twitch in his jaw, the way his eyes darted for an exit that didn't exist. And then came the knock. Not from me, not from him. A deep, even knock at the front door. 3 taps, firm, measured, final. The flashlight beam that followed slid across the frosted glass. A voice echoed down the hall. "Fulton PD, open the door." Chase didn't move. He turned his head slightly toward the light, then back to me. You actually called them?" "No," I said. "I called them months ago. They're just late." Tessa stepped beside me. We both stood facing him, not yelling, not crying, just there, still, unmoved. His chest rose and fell too fast. He looked like a balloon someone had poked too many holes in, still holding air, but barely. The wedding photo behind him had shifted on the wall, slightly tilted. I noticed something I hadn't before. A crack had formed in the glass. It ran diagonally, slicing cleanly across both our faces, but landed deeper across his. Maybe it had always been there, or maybe the glass had finally followed me. She didn't ask if I was okay. She asked if I really had to make it public. The police station smelled like plastic and copy toner, with a hint of old coffee lingering in the air. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, humming a dull rhythm that made everything feel suspended, slowed. I sat in a metal chair that squeaked each time I adjusted my weight. Across from me sat Officer Brenly, a tall woman with hair pulled into a low, severe bun, and the kind of stare that had seen too many lies to take words at face value. The room was small, barely enough space for the desk, 2 chairs, and a dusty plastic plant by the corner. A camera blinked silently above us, watching but never interfering. I placed the folder between us without a word. Officer Brenly didn't reach for it immediately. She studied me first. I recognized the look. Calculating, cautious, practiced. She wasn't waiting for me to speak. She was measuring how I would. "You can start any time," she said. Her tone was neutral, but clipped. I opened the folder and began. My voice didn't waver. I read line by line from the emergency protective order draft I had spent the night rewriting, until it sounded like someone else's life. Until it no longer felt like mine. I, Nora Ellis, request a protection order under Georgia Family Code Title 19, Chapter 13, citing repeated physical, emotional, and financial abuse. I kept reading, listing the dates, the incidents, the evidence now included. I detailed how Chase had transferred money from our joint account to his unregistered betting app, how he had struck me twice, how he isolated me, withheld financial access, restricted my contact with friends, how I stopped recognizing my own voice in recordings of our arguments. She didn't interrupt, didn't even blink. When I reached the end, I closed the folder gently and looked up. Officer Brenly exhaled, tapped her pen once on the desk, then asked the question I'd been expecting since I walked in. "Why now?" I didn't answer with words. I reached back into the folder and slid out a single sheet, a signed letter from my therapist, dated 6 months ago. She read it silently, and I watched her expression shift, just a little. It was the first time all day someone's eyes didn't go cold after reading my story. "She warned me," I said. I wasn't ready to listen. A silence hung between us, heavy and bare. Then she nodded once. "We can process this today," she said. "You'll receive a court date within 7 business days. Until then, the temporary protective order goes into effect immediately. If Chase contacts you in any form, you call us directly." I nodded. Behind the silence, I could hear someone crying outside. A woman, 2 rooms over. Her voice cracked and spilled through the walls like a ghost. I didn't turn my head. I stayed perfectly still. On the wall behind Officer Brenly, a laminated poster said, "You are not alone." Big black letters. A sunrise graphic in the corner. Hopeful, maybe. To someone else. I looked at it for exactly 3 seconds, then looked away. I reached for my phone, slowly. My fingers hovered over the name, saved simply as Mom. My thumb hesitated, then tapped. She picked up on the 3rd ring. "Nora?" Her voice was cautious, polished, like answering a number she half expected to be a telemarketer. "I filed today," I said, "for a protective order against Chase." A pause, sharp intake of breath. Then, "Did it have to be public?" That was all. No questions about my bruises, no concern about my safety, no apology for walking out of my apartment without a word. "Marriage isn't perfect, Nora. You don't air your laundry in front of strangers. It reflects badly." I said nothing. The silence wasn't for her. It was mine. In my head, I went back to when I was 8. I had fallen down the stairs at my cousin's house, scraped my leg bloody on the carpet. My mother had rushed over, not to hold me, but to whisper sharply, "Get up! You're making a scene." She wasn't silent out of fear. She was silent out of convenience. And I had been translating that silence ever since. I hung up without another word. Officer Brenly didn't ask who I'd called. She handed me the last form. "Signature here?" I signed it. Full name, clear, final. She gathered the documents in one motion, clipped them into a file marked priority. As she stood to leave, she glanced back, not with pity, but with something closer to respect. The click of the door closing behind her was soft, but it echoed in the room. I remained a moment longer. When I stepped out into the hallway, the woman who'd been crying was now sitting quietly on a bench, her shoulders hunched, a cup of water shaking in her hands. We didn't make eye contact, but I understood her. Maybe she understood me, too. I passed a bulletin board on the wall, flyers for shelters, hotline numbers, self-defense classes. My eyes caught on a small yellow paper, handwritten, "You deserve peace." I didn't take it, but I let it stay with me. As I pushed open the side door, cold air hit my face. The world was still moving. Buses rolled by. Horns honked. Somewhere, a child laughed from a schoolyard I couldn't see. The door clicked shut behind me, and then my phone buzzed. From Elisa Carrington. Subject, Restory Submission. Message, this will not be buried. I didn't smile, but I didn't lower my eyes either. I walked toward the street, not because I had somewhere to be, but because I had finally stopped asking who was behind me. This time, I knew the door was closed, because I was the one who closed it. The first comment wasn't mine. It was hers, and it read, "I believe her." The morning light barely touched the far edge of the kitchen counter. I sat at the dining table, feet curled under me, holding a mug of coffee that had gone cold twice already. I didn't reheat it. I wasn't drinking for warmth. I was holding it the way people hold shields. My laptop screen glowed softly in front of me. The article went live at 7:02 a.m. sharp. I hadn't slept. Not out of fear. Just readiness. That quiet, unwavering kind of stillness that replaces adrenaline once you've crossed the line you can't uncross. The headline stared back at me. The hands behind the silence. 3 women, 1 man, and the system that let him roam. Elisa had kept her promise. Every fact triple verified. Every quote approved. No dramatics, no embellishment, just truth, lined up like dominoes. I didn't refresh the page. I just watched it sit there, unbothered, unmovable, like it belonged. By 7:12, the first comment appeared. Not mine. Someone else. I believe her. I felt the coffee slosh slightly in my hand as I tightened my grip. By 7:22, there were 40 more. By 7:35, my inbox started to fill. A DM, then another, then 3 more. One simply said, "I was one of his patients." Another, "Thank you for not staying quiet." I leaned back in the chair and let the messages come like waves, not to drown me, but to remind me how many people had been treading water in silence. Somewhere in that moment, I remembered the first audio file I had sent to Tessa. The one where I said nothing, really. Just the sound of a door slam, his voice in the distance calling me dramatic. I hadn't even known why I sent it, but now I did. That sound was now in the article. A tiny clip, embedded, proof. Not of violence alone, but of tone, dismissal, repetition. He called it passion. I called it pattern. And then came the video. At 8:16 a.m., Chase posted it to his personal account. The quality was bad. The lighting worse. He looked like he hadn't slept either, but for different reasons. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes red. He leaned close to the camera like he was trying to make it personal. "She's not the person you think she is," he said. "She's unstable. She's vindictive. I loved her. But this is cruel." His voice cracked once, carefully. A tear. Maybe real, maybe not. He blinked, and the screen froze for a second, mid-glance, mid-performance. I didn't share it. I didn't respond. I didn't have to, because someone else already had. A comment below his video. "She didn't break the silence. She survived it. That's louder. It had 30,000 shares in 2 hours. And I, finally, felt the weight shift. I walked to the bathroom and turned on the cold water, washed my face slowly, the same way I had that night, swollen and bleeding. But this time, I didn't flinch. On the wall above the desk, I pinned 2 things side by side: a hospital bracelet and a screenshot of the article. From a victim to a voice. At 9:47 a.m., my phone rang. The burner line. A number I didn't recognize. I answered. "This is Taryn Everett from the Fulton County District Attorney's Office," the woman said. "Ms. Ellis, we're reopening your case." I didn't speak. I just let the silence stretch. She continued. "With new public disclosures and the recordings embedded, we now have standing to pursue escalated charges. Also, as of 8:30 this morning, Mr. Monroe has been ordered to surrender all registered firearms within 24 hours. His contact restrictions have been expanded. No social media mentions, no third-party communication." Still, I didn't speak. Until finally, "Thank you for catching up." When the call ended, I let the phone rest against my collarbone. Just for a second. To feel something real. That was when the second phone buzzed. The burner. One new message. "Unknown number. You've made a mistake. Fix it, or I will." I stared at it. Let the words sit in my hand like a pebble someone meant to throw, but dropped. Then, without a blink, I scrolled to my saved files, opened an audio clip, hit play. Chase's voice spilled through the speaker. "You're nothing. You think you matter? You're just here. You're property." I let it run all the way through, then closed the app, set the phone down slowly. "No," I whispered to no one. "I just finally corrected one." Have you ever been called too quiet, too emotional, or too much when all you did was survive someone else's storm? If you've ever been labeled while trying to heal, comment number 9 below. Now let's see what happens when the truth is louder than the lie. I walked alone once. I walked out with my sisters. The steps of the Fulton County Courthouse fell short this time, not because I moved faster, but because I moved differently. My spine didn't shrink. My gaze didn't drop. The folder in my hands wasn't heavy with fear anymore. It was just paper now. Paper that said, "Final filing." I remembered the first time I stood here, weeks ago, alone. Fingers trembling over the unsigned divorce form tucked into my coat, like a secret I wasn't sure I was ready to tell. But now, the folder was upright in my grip. My signature, bold. My presence, undeniable. Beside me, Dana adjusted the strap on her bag, her face calm but watchful. Alana stood a step behind, hands clasped around something wrapped in cloth. And Tessa didn't say a word. She just held the camera against her chest, not as a weapon this time, but as a witness. We didn't rush. We didn't huddle. We climbed the stairs like we'd done it 100 times, like they were ours to climb. Inside, the clerk didn't look up right away. Then his eyes found me, and he smiled, small but real. "No camera today?" he asked. I shook my head. "Just closure." He stamped the documents, slid them into the tray without ceremony. Just like that, it was final. No noise, no courtroom drama. Just the quiet click of a system finally catching up. Behind me, I heard the soft scrape of Alana unwrapping her bundle. It was a small glass candle holder, the kind you'd expect to see at a vigil, not a courthouse. She placed it gently on the windowsill just inside the lobby and struck a match. The flame flickered, then held. "This," she whispered, "is for the ones still waiting to believe." We didn't speak after that. We didn't need to. As we stepped outside, the sunlight had gone gold. bleeding slowly across the marble steps and catching in the corners of our coats. We didn't pose. We didn't perform. We just stood. Four women who once whispered in closets and therapists' offices, now upright in daylight. We didn't break the system, I said, voice steady. But we stopped letting it bury us. Dana gave a quiet hum of agreement. Tessa recorded the sky instead of our faces. Alana didn't look back at the courthouse. We didn't need to, because the next blow hadn't come from us. It came from a headline. Termination confirmed. Restraining order permanent. Charges pending. Chase Monroe was now just a name on a court docket. Not a threat, not a husband, just a file. That evening, I walked the long way home. The chill had teeth, but I didn't shiver. At home, I set the folder marked Final Filing on the same desk where I once clutched ice to my jaw. Beside it sat my old notebook, the one labeled Closure. I slid it gently back into place. Not tucked away, not hidden, just where it belonged. On the kitchen counter, a mug of chamomile tea steamed quietly. My hand reached for it, steady now, warm, not shaking. I glanced once at my phone. Chase's Instagram profile no longer existed. Just a blank icon, a placeholder where performance used to live. The digital silence was louder than anything he'd ever shouted. Somewhere down the hall, the heater kicked on. Familiar. Normal. I picked up the candle Alana had given me after the courthouse and walked it to the window. Lit it with a single match. The glass warmed beneath my fingers. Outside, the sky was already darkening, and in that reflection, the flame cast itself twice, once in the window and once in my eyes. "This isn't for him," I whispered. "It's for the girl still hiding. I hope she sees it." No applause, no witness, just breath and quiet and fire. I didn't disappear into a headline. I didn't burn everything down. I lit one candle and let the world see it. A few months later, the court issued the sentence. Not the longest, not the harshest, but enough. Enough to mark his name in the record. Enough to draw a boundary the law could finally see. My parents never called, not to ask, not to apologize, not even to pretend they were proud. And I stopped waiting. I left the apartment with the thin walls and lemon-scented fear. Moved somewhere smaller, quieter, where the echoes belong only to me. I didn't start over, I started forward. Once a week, I host a workshop at the local community center. Nothing dramatic. Just a circle of women and a whiteboard that says, "Document. Don't defend." They come with stories half-written. Some come with none at all. I teach them how to write it anyway. Not for the courts. Not even for revenge. For memory. Because if you don't own your version, someone else will write it for you. At night, I still light the candle in my window. Not for him. Not for the past. For the girl still hiding. The one watching from behind curtains that feel more like cages. The one who still flinches at small noises. The one who whispers her story in her head, but never aloud. To her, I say this. Start with the date. Then write down the time. That's your first line. We'll help you write the rest.